Nintendo Switch Sports is fast approaching now, and we know the launch sports and the first but hopefully not last of the DLC sports. But I wanted to imagine a brand new sport to the series that played very differently to everything else that has come before it, and that sport is running. Yes, if you saw my ideas for 5 other sports to add to Switch Sports, you'll have seen running, but I wanted to go into it a little bit further here because I feel it could work very well as a completely different yet intense sport. And there's a lot that can be done as far as modes and mini games. So first off, how would I control it? Since we're on Nintendo Switch, we're using the Joy-Cons for control obviously. There are a lot of great things we can do for them, but the key thing that matters to the way I would control them is already being used in Nintendo Switch Sports, and that is the leg strap accessory to track leg movement. The accessory is used primarily in Nintendo's own Ring Fit Adventure for its jogging and adventure modes. If you haven't tried the game out already, I seriously recommend it. It's a great fitness tool disguised as a video game. It perfectly shows the basics of in-game running as I would implement it into Nintendo Switch Sports as well. You'd move by jogging on the spot, and your own increased pace would increase your speed in the game too. This would be the main control. I would also use the other Joy-Con to do certain actions as well, like jump or strafe to avoid objects, and I'd assign this to the joystick rather than a motion control, as you'd be likely to swing your arms while jogging, which could trigger the motion jumps and strafes when you don't want to. So now that we've got that control system down, how would the sport work? Well, the standard mode or modes I would have would be similar to traditional track events. I would have 100 meters, 200 meters, 400 meters, maybe a 1,500 meter run. There would be a focus on speed here, especially for short distances, and we would have timing as a way of scoring. Shortest time wins, as it is in real racing. These shorter standard track races would be pure speed and could work in local and online play as well. Racing people around the world would be really fun and a real active challenge to undertake. You can spice these tracks up in a similar way to how Nintendo Switch Sports is spicing up bowling. Have holes and spaces to avoid where you would need to shift lanes to avoid them or possibly jump over them. You could even have speed and intensity of your run affecting your jump distance, and this would create some really interesting strategies for certain stages. You could also do more varied stages, running around the golf courses, avoiding balls being hit at you, running around Spoko Square itself or the city surrounding it could be a great way of expanding the in-game universe. This would be a great reason to bring back Woohoo Island as well, and it would make for an amazing course. There could even be marathon style races to compete in, which would be a longer form fitness focused slice of gameplay, which I think Nintendo is trying to aim for in general, but honestly not quite achieving. I'd also consider something akin to the Spyro target race level or races in GTA. You have to strafe to hit the correct checkpoints, and sometimes that will mean some last minute switching of lanes to get it right. This could really increase the skill potential needed to give progression and variety to the sport as well. It plays into the control stick being used for strafing and jumping again, as it would make it less reliant on potentially flawed motion controls. Implementing co-op as well would be pretty simple. You could have versus races of all of the types of race, and as well you could have relay races where you're doing a 400 meter race but each person in your team is doing a 100 meter dash. That could be a really interesting way of implementing co-op and a different style of race. Now Nintendo Switch Sports is using the old stamp/achievement system. Naturally we'd have them in here. Getting first place in a race, getting first place in all of the races are givens, and I'd include some time-based ones as well. I can't give an exact number here because I don't really know exactly how fast it would go, but I'd include some pretty fun ones as well, like the special bowling one from Wii Sports. Maybe knock over 5 pedestrians and still win, or take a secret shortcut through Spoko Square. There's some really interesting potential here that I would like to employ. And really, that is running as a sport in Nintendo Switch Sports and how I'd implement it. Lots of active fun with some real potential for minigames and exploration. The big downside to all of this though, not everyone has good leg mobility. Some people aren't able to use their legs at all or have legs, so this sports implementation would need to support an alternate mode so that everyone can have a go at it, if you ask me. Whether that be an auto run for certain game modes that involve jumping or other movements, an arm mode where you can swing your arm to simulate the run instead, or something entirely more creative. I wouldn't want people to miss out on this, and accessibility is a key option. So what do you think of this idea? Would you like to see running in Nintendo Switch Sports? Hit me up in the comments, let me know how you'd like to implement it or if you'd like to see it at all. Remember to like, share and subscribe for a ton of Nintendo Switch Sports content on the way, thanks to my patrons like Rain, I Love Waffles 1311 and Sick Hippie for their continued support through Patreon. I've been Master Trainer Peter, and I'll see you next time.